In this segment of our series on creative destruction, we will look at how creative destruction affected the United States and other countries in the past. At one time, people traveled in our cities by horse and buggy. And as an aside, if you think pollution is bad today, imagine what the streets were like here in the 19th century. You know, there's no restroom for these horses, so the streets got very polluted. When we traveled across longer distances on land, we took the stagecoach. The guys sitting on the buckboard here, by the way, were called teamsters. Today, teamsters drive 18-wheelers. For longer distances back then, we traveled by rail and trains. Just so you know, the accident and death rate per billion miles traveled by rail back then was extremely high, higher than anything we'd ever experienced before, except for riding a horse, which was even worse on a per mile basis. To cross the ocean back then, we boarded steamships. In those days, there were hordes of carriage makers, blacksmiths, teamsters, railroad engineers and conductors, boiler makers, and so on. Then came automobiles and about 4 million miles of roads across the country, 47,000 of which were interstate highways. About that same time, the airplane arrived on the scene. Look at the newspaper text here of the first flight. Quote, "A claim by Orville and Wilbur Wright, self-taught inventors from Dayton, Ohio, that they have achieved heavier-than-air flight in an aircraft built by themselves is being received with skepticism." End quote. Then the article goes on to say that a highly respected American scientist, Simon Newcomb, had just proven that powered flight was impossible. You probably should agree with me that practice proves more than theory. So, here come both the automobile and the airplane, and away go the jobs of blacksmiths, buggy whip makers, and a lot of railroad workers. At its peak in 1920, 2,076,000 people worked for the railroads. That was 1 out of every 15 employed persons in this country. Cars and trucks, particularly tractor-trailer trucks or 18-wheelers, plus air travel, put the railroad business into long-term decline. I show you here the railroad statistics through the year 2000, but today only about 122,000 people work in the railroad industry, not the 2,076,000 people who worked there in 1920. Today, that's 1 out of every 1,300 people, not the 1 out of every just 15 people who had jobs there a century ago. Boilermakers were once considered to be high-tech workers. They built steam engines for early trains and ocean liners, and later to generate electricity. But those jobs are very rare these days. My mother was a switchboard operator during World War II. That occupation peaked in 1970 with 402,000 workers. In 2015, there were just 16,000 of those jobs left. Most of the jobs in coal mines or as typists or assembly line workers are gone. My favorite? An elevator operator. Up and down, all day long. That's your job. Surely there's a better, higher order use of a human being's time. In 1910, 11,533,000 people worked on farms in this country. Most of those jobs are gone now. Out with the old and in with the new. That theme keeps coming back. Things come and they go. It's the churn, a shorthand terminology for creative destruction. Over 500 radio programs aired in America in the early 1900s. A very popular one for the kids was called Little Orphan Annie's Secret Society. Its star, a radio star, was Orson Welles. In 1927, television was invented by a Scotsman named John Logie Baird, and eventually it became the dominant force in society. It took over 20 years for this to happen because America went through the Great Depression, followed by World War II. But then the baby boom hit, and every household had to have a TV, even at astronomical prices of the day in terms of work hours. Radio stars faded away, or they went on television. More recently, think about the invention of the internet. This is the ARPANET, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. People often credit government for inventing the internet because ARPA, later named DARPA, the D being for defense, was put in place by the military. Well, this is it. 4 mainframe computers connected to each other in December of 1969. Note, there was a Stanford Research Institute's 940 mainframe, a PDP at Utah, a Sigma 7 at UCLA, and an IBM 360 at UCSB. That was it, 1969. The ARPANET went nowhere, though, for 20 years, until Tim Berners-Lee, an English engineer and computer scientist, invented the HTTP and HTML computer language protocols that we use today. Tim Berners-Lee is widely credited as being the inventor of the World Wide Web. He worked as an engineer in the United Kingdom, then as an independent contractor at CERN. He is in the private, for-profit sector, not the government. Once the HTTP protocol was invented, private, for-profit businesses started to recognize the potential for commerce, and the internet exploded. The internet first appeared on the economic landscape in the early 1990s. Today, as you know, the world is vastly different and so much better because of the internet. Imagine what would have happened to the global economy if the coronavirus had hit in 1918 before the internet. Think about how able our economy is to reconfigure itself today, as indeed we're going through right now. There are many new teaching methods and new learning methods made possible because of the internet. And this takes us back to the theme of creative destruction. Name 10 businesses that were killed or badly hurt by the internet. Well, number 1, the newspaper business is often credited as a casualty of the internet, and it is certainly one. Revenue from newspaper advertising plummeted after the internet. Next, the video store business. Blockbuster stock hit an all-time high in the year 2002. Just 8 years later, though, it fell to zero as the company went bankrupt. Next, the encyclopedia business. 350,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannica sold in 1990. Just 20,000 sold 8 years later in 1998, and today, none. Wikipedia helped cause this. Of course, it's free in 289 languages, with more information than you can read in a lifetime. Another casualty, the Sears catalog. I have Sears' final catalog in my office. It's this one, the Spring-Summer 1993 edition, which I bought on eBay. Think about it, a 100-year Sears tradition was gone very soon after the internet appeared on the scene. First published in 1893, the Sears catalog was put out every year for a century, but gone in a flash. Other old jobs gone. Typesetters. We don't do printing this way anymore. Instead, we have laser printers. What about getting tickets for sporting or entertainment events over the phone? Gone. Jobs of electricity meter readers? Gone. Our monthly electric usage information is sent to the electric company directly via the internet. Traditional retail is clearly going by the wayside, such as Payless shoe stores, which closed all of its 2,100 stores a few years ago. More recently, Bed Bath & Beyond is a casualty of our preferred new way of shopping. We'll talk more about this sort of thing later, but it's worth mentioning here that Bed Bath & Beyond's stock hit an all-time high not even 10 years ago, on December 20th of 2014. I hope you didn't buy and hold. Out with the old economy, yes, but in with the new one, too. Look at the explosion of computer ownership, programmers, software companies, internet sites, e-commerce revenues, email addresses, and a whole lot more. This all happened in just a few years after the internet emerged. Remember, I'm taking you back 53 years from today to the explosion in the computer and internet-related economy in the 30 short years from 1970 to 2000. But the internet part of that didn't really begin as the commercial entity until the mid-1990s. It's stunning how fast the new economy can emerge. Job churn is by no means a new phenomenon. Indeed, it's the way our economy has progressed throughout history. And it's a natural, nonstop, and healthy part of a free market economy. So next, what causes creative destruction? That's what we turn to in our next segment.